Welcome to the After Dark podcast with Anthony James and Konrad. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss an episode.
Hello, and welcome to the After Dark podcast. I'm Anthony James, and that is Konrad.
Hello.
Here we are, Konrad, back again. We've got a lot to talk about today, so Konrad, if you don't mind, I'm just going to say straight away, subscribe on audio apps, subscribe up to the Culture Cave on YouTube, subscribe to, I don't know, nothing else, that's all we've got. If you want to follow us on Instagram and Facebook, links in the description. Also, what am I saying? Oh yeah, we also have an email address you can send us some emails to if you want to ask us a question. We've got a few emails today, actually, Konrad, to talk about, so that'll be good fun.
Nice.
And if you want to leave a comment on this for the final episode of Dark. Oh, the final episode of Dark. If you want to leave a comment on this for that. And then, yeah, after that, it's the final episode. Then it's the Theory Matrix. Yeah. And then it's the end. Konrad.
The finish line is in sight. I'm like, we're on the home stretch.
We are on the, well, you know, if it's a circle, it's not really a stretch, but it's it's on the home something, that's for sure.
The home cycle.
Yeah, the home cycle. Before we start sort of getting into the episode, I wanted to mention that Konrad and I, now I did mention this, Konrad, I don't know if you remember this, but you know, this is me reminding you. Konrad and I are going to be doing a Dark Discussions live stream the day after the final episode of After Dark comes out. So not next. Oh, it'll be next week. So next Tuesday, we'll be doing a Dark Discussions live stream, and that's where you can ask all your unanswered questions to Konrad and myself. He will have seen the whole show by then, and that will be on. I'll put all the information underneath in the description as well. That live stream every Tuesday at 9 p.m. UK time GMT. We do a live stream for Dark Discussions. Well, Konrad joins me every now and then, and I do it every week. But that week, details in the description, Konrad will be joining me. So make sure you're there to ask live unanswered questions to both Konrad and I.
We can finally figure out who Regina had a sword fight with.
Yeah, we'll have to. We'll have to. That's the sort of thing which will come out and will come to bear. And the thing is, now that you've seen the whole thing, we can actually objectively agree. There's been a questionable use of our word objective in the past, but I think we are using it correctly.
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I think there's only one objective meaning of the word objective, and we know it. So our objective opinions on what happened for the unanswered questions, once that episode's finished, once that live stream's finished, that is what's happened in Dark, and that is no more need for any unanswered questions.
We're recording it onto a DVD. We're sliding that DVD into an envelope, and we're writing on the front of it to Germany, care of Jotje Fries and Barbaodor, and then we're gonna say, there you go, guys, fixed it for you.
Fixed it. Right. Okay. So one more thing I wanted to talk about before we get into this episode. There's a few big reveals in this episode.
Yes.
But I've got a bone to pick with people who had a bone to pick with me.
Oh shit, he's pulling back. I can feel it. He's pulling back for a big hit, guys.
Right. So basically, I don't know if you're not someone who sort of spends time in the YouTube comments, you wouldn't have seen this. But basically, there was a contingent of people in the YouTube comments who thought that I gave Konrad a bit too much last week. First thing I want to ask, we've got Konrad on the stand here, so I'm going to interrogate him. Konrad, do you feel, or did you...
Hand to God.
Yeah, I can't see it because you're off screen. It's off screen. There we go.
There you go.
Yeah. So your hand is on the Triquetra book as well. Yeah. So basically, Konrad, I want to ask you, when you left the recording of last week's episode, did you think that I had in any way confirmed anything to you?
No. I think what I don't tend to read the comments too much because I don't want to get anything spoiled. I skim through them sometimes, and I think some people's opinions seem to be that you had kind of led me to the Hanno Tauber water, insofar as Bartos and Celia are concerned. But I still had to drink that water, listeners. You know, I had to get there on my own. And to be honest, I think I was kind of theory crafting live on air, and all we ended up doing was making my realization, or my remembrance, I guess, that Noah Agnes's brother happen on the podcast rather than like an hour after we finished recording.
So that was one thing, was that I said, I reminded you that Agnes's brother is actually Noah.
Hanno.
Hanno, yeah. That was one thing. The second thing is that whenever, now this is something that I'm fair enough. Okay, maybe that was a little bit of railroading, but I wanted Konrad to realize on the air so you guys can see it. So I'm willing to admit I railroaded him there. I did. But he still came to the prediction himself. He still predicted the Agnes part himself. So he gets the points as far as I'm concerned.
Oh, yeah, I'm not... Yeah, don't listen to me, listeners. Don't you dare try and take that away from me, all right? That's in the Matrix.
No,
it's green.
He got it. So basically, the second part of it was, which I want to sort of put a pin in here, is that I then went on to say that when I watched the show the first time, I noticed that the names Hannah and Hanno were similar to each other. And that made me think that. Now, I understand why you think that that's really, really me confirming or me giving him too much. And, maybe I agree with you. But at the same time, the whole way through this podcast, I have been, and I am trying to defend myself here, Konrad. The whole way through this podcast, I have been saying, well, at this time I thought this, the whole way through. And a lot of the time, I have said that about things that he has got right and he doesn't know it yet. So I think it's just the fact that it's such a big reveal at the end of the season 3 is the why people were very sort of, what the hell are you doing, Anthony? I get it.
That cuts both ways, though. Because you've said it. I mean, you have said about things I've gotten right before, but you've also said it about things that I've gotten wrong before. Let's not forget, dear listener, that this is the same man who, prior to recording, a sight unseen, where in his dirty little nook where the listener's eyes couldn't see him, he sent me a message on Facebook saying, "Oh, you might want to put that Egon is dying in episode 6 on the Theory Matrix."
Because you said it.
And I was. And I thought when he sent that to me, like, oh, that's one in the back pocket. That's a theory that I'm gonna get some points for. The next episode, was Egon even fucking in it? No, he wasn't. He wasn't in the episode. So this is the kind of man we're dealing with here, all right. Like I think that, Anthony giveth and Anthony taketh away, and in this case, it was a little bit more give than taking away. But I think ultimately it all comes out in the wash.
Yeah, exactly. And there was no way that you would have known that I was being genuine there. Like I've led you down.
I can't trust you. I simply can't trust you, as we've established.
So really, what it should have been last week, it should have been the listeners being like, "Here we go. Anthony thinks he thinks he's down the wrong path now. Anthony, a little glint at the little wink and nudge, But actually, I was leading them down the right path. That's the thing, Konrad, and we'll end it with this glowing defense of myself. I didn't lead you anywhere. Okay, I merely perhaps took away a little bit of your reaction when you watched the show. Having said that, I know you, so whenever you got a theory right, no matter how much I had said about it, you would have been celebrating anyway.
Oh yeah, I was punching the air non-stop in this episode. Just like finger guns all over the place as things were getting confirmed.
Exactly. Okay, so just if you still think I'm a mental case, and I shouldn't have done that, let me know in the comments. But for now, that's that. Right, Konrad, do you want to get into this episode then?
Yeah, let's do it.
Oh, let's break it down.
Episode 7 of season 3 opens with, I don't know if you would call it, I assumed this was like H.G. Tannhouse's TV show. That's how he seems like he's presenting a TV show. That's what
it's like his version of Blue Peter. Like he's sort of, he's talking you through how to build your own time machine at home.
Yeah, exactly. So he's talking about Schrodinger's cat and the idea that if a cat dies in a box because
until it's observed.
Yeah, until it's observed, you don't know which state is it in. Is it in the dead state or the live state? And when you open the box, you see. Now, so they're basically saying, is it possible that when you open the box, time goes off in 2 directions? One in which the cat is live, one in which the cat is dead.
Yeah.
And then it talks about the macro world, and is that possible in the macro world? Well, it seems to be, because then we straight away move into finding out that inflection point, and I think you do get a point in the Matrix for this. You predicted that Marta was going to be having an inflection point too.
Yeah, I don't think I actually put this one in the Matrix.
But that is a prediction. That I think you should get it for that. I think you should get a point.
I might have to revisit that after this and be like, well, because I won't lie to you now, listeners. It made for some rough Theory Matrix viewing. I got some big ones right, but unfortunately, as we've established previously, the size of the theory doesn't matter. It's volume, and unfortunately, the volume was not in my favor in this one. But I mean, okay, I'm gonna say this now, all right? Let's just talk for a second here. It's just me and you, listener. All right, we're gonna talk about that. Or me, you, and Anthony. The fucking balls on this show to just be like episodes. I like this. I'm gonna get more into it as we go through, but this is like a virtuoso presentational performance. It's like episode 7. We've got one left after this. How about we throw in some animation? How about we throw in a different aspect ratio? How about we throw in, I don't know, a character breaking the fourth wall and talking directly to the audience? How about we throw in a fucking framing device of like dates or years, I guess, ticking around? Like, what are you doing? These are things you established seasons ago, not like one episode from the end of your television show. And to be clear, I'm not criticizing it. I loved it. But it was just like from the moment that animation of the cat dying popped up on screen, I was like, what's going on here, guys? Like, what's happening? And there's only one theory I have coming out of this episode. I'll get to it on the final scene with H.G. Tannhaus, but it has to do with the very, very different presentational elements in specifically the H.G. Tannhaus 74 and 86 stuff. And I think it's a pretty big theory, but it is buck wild. And then the shift from H.G. Tannhaus with this crazy new widescreen presentation to Alt Marta. And again, you know, this is slightly more subtle, but you get the Marta split screen, and they filmed this twice because they're slightly different. It must have been such a nightmare to shoot those two scenes twice and get them to the point where they're almost identical but not quite identical. And then as you say,
well, they have to be identical up to a certain point, don't they? Really? That's
well, they actually weren't though. That's they weren't identical. They're this very slightly different, and I think that was intentional to show that time will allow tiny discrepancies in it. So, you know, maybe Marta blink, or in actual fact, in that they blink at the same time, which is the bit I was like, that is impressive.
No, I think okay, I know exactly what you mean. My idea, in my mind, until Bartos yells, it's meant to be the exact same. Now,
okay. I was more like, okay, they're going to allow a little bit of difference between this, but the broad strokes are the same, and that, to me, that made that even more impressive to time everything and block everything correctly to get those like the broad strokes feeling the same while allowing them to be slightly distinct. But either way,
well, it doesn't change much anyway, because we know that the two sides of the line, for example, like these two sort of different realities exist, and if it's a case of everything's the same, but they breathe at different times. Like, I don't think it's that big of a problem. Like,
but yeah, I mean, this was
so basically, Bartos comes and says, "Hey, don't go in there. Don't trust Adam." And we find out that in the same reality where Adam or Jonas gets to the basement, Marta doesn't come in because Bartos stops her.
Yeah, and this was actually me getting something wrong in my theory matrix, because I thought Alt Bartos was going off to try and save the now completely obliterated Alt Marta from Adam's captivity. I thought that was the Marta he was going to try and save. When in fact, in retrospect,
that's an orange.
Sense.
That's not a red. Let's be honest.
Okay, well,
this isn't the theory matrix episode.
We'll come back to that, but I'll remind you of that statement when when the theory matrix episode comes around. But in retrospect, that theory wouldn't have made sense, because obviously this Marta is the one who is going to become Eva, and the other Marta is just going to get obliterated in a big old ball of.
So the
stuff.
other Marta you're talking about is the one. This is really interesting. It's the one who doesn't get saved by Bartos. At this point, the split, the one who becomes Eva is the one who gets called back by Bartos, and the one who then goes on to save Jonas is the one who gets obliterated. Yeah.
So
obliterated by the very man she's saving.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's a lot of that going around, to be honest.
Right. Okay. So from there, is that all you wanted to say about that?
Yeah, there's. I mean,
it is really cool. Like, I honestly could watch that scene over and over again of just Bartos being like Marta, and then one keeps running and the other one turns around. Like, it is so cool.
Such cool split screen, or such cool use of split screen, and the Tannhaus stuff. We'll come back to it again and again, and I will develop my theory as we go. But
excellent.
There's some stuff happening in this episode.
All right. Okay. Cool. So next up, we get the title card, and it is In Between Time. But it's interesting because on IMDb here it says Between the Time.
Yeah, that's what Netflix has as well.
Yeah, but the actual in the episode it's called In Between Time. So obviously between the time is like the literal translation from the German, I think.
Yeah.
I'm not going to get this right, but I'll give it a go. Zwischen der Zeit.
No, that was almost completely wrong, I think.
Yeah, I'm not going to get it.
It's Zwischen der Zeit, I think, is how you...
Zwischen.
Zwischen.
Zwischen. I'm not going to get it.
Der Zeit. Yeah, is how I would say
Der
that.
Zeit.
Probably...
Oh, der Zeit.
Yeah.
Yes, of course it's der Zeit. That makes sense now.
Yeah. So EI is always an I sound in... I say always, maybe there's examples where it's not the case, but I think EI in German is normally an I sound.
Yeah, no, well, I actually did know that, but I don't apply it to words. The reason why I knew that is because I'm pretty sure my wife's name is Emer, Eimear, and I think Eimer, I'm probably completely wrong about this, but I think Eimer or something like that is like Eimer or something like that, and I think it means bucket.
I don't know the word for bucket. I know an I as in an EI is an egg. So
there you go.
you say I but
Egmer. I'll call it Egmer.
I mean, buckets and eggs are kind of similar in some respects.
Well, eggs
they
can
both
go with
hold
buckets.
liquid.
Yeah, well, that's maybe why they were called. Maybe that's where the word bucket comes from.
Yeah, they're
because,
like chicken buckets.
What does mer mean? Does mer mean carry? So it's like egg carry bucket.
Sure.
Having said that, I'm basing that on me being correct about that meaning bucket, which is completely not going to be the case. Like let's be honest. Okay, so
let us know in the comments.
Yeah. So as you said, there's a sort of a presentational difference between this episode and the rest of the show, and it really struck me when I watched it the first time too, where it was like, hang on, what? These massive numbers on the screen.
Yeah,
so
you get it's so good, and like I mean, I've talked about it both on this podcast and on the our Best Movie Podcast Ever podcast. How I'm a big fan of nice photography, and the Tannhaus 74 stuff and the 86 stuff. The Tannhaus stuff uses a really, really wide aspect ratio, like the kind of thing you'd see in a cinema, and it makes it feel really cinematic. You get a lot of information in the frame. It's a really rich image that they use. So it's immediately recognizable, and then obviously the year overlay is just this kind of, I guess it's like an establishing device to quickly tell you where you are, but it's very cool. Yeah,
the 1974 is the first one we go to. That idea of going to a different aspect ratio, it's also something that is utilized within The Expanse season 4.
It is. Yeah. I've got that literally in my notes to this scene. It gives it this kind of richness which is used in the planetary stuff in season 4 of The Expanse.
Yeah.
Which I mean, it's used. I'm not going to give my theory away just yet, but I think it's used for different reasons in this than it is in the. Oh, okay, no, actually, I'm not going to say that fully, but it's slightly different reasons in this.
I think I know why you're not saying that fully. I have no idea what your theory is, but I think we all can see the idea you're going for here. So basically, H.G. Tannhaus is looking at pictures of his family. Then he goes to Gravestone, where the 3 members of his family have passed away. He goes underneath into the bunker. And he sort of
interesting in and of itself, because he shouldn't be going to that bunker.
Why?
What does H.G. Tannhaus have to do with that bunker? It belongs to the Dopplers.
Well, that's true. In my head, I suppose I just thought he was going for a walk out in the forest after.
Found a bunker.
Yeah.
Just went in.
Yeah, that's what I think. He just went in. That's honestly what I thought. But it's like, obviously, like, we could go into more details. Like, I haven't seen the deed to the cottage, but,
You get like a wild-eyed Helga with a shotgun coming out, like, get off my land! Probably not in that accent, to be honest, but yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so then we go down to 2021.
Yes.
And we get lovely scenes between Elizabeth and Noah. They are the heartbeat of this episode for the first half of the episode anyway.
Yeah, Noah is really one of the stars of this episode. Ellie to a lesser extent as well, but Noah's really one of the stars of this episode. And I think this relationship and the fact that it remains so pure for the 20 years or so that they spend together is a moment of kind of a brief optimism in what is otherwise, I don't know if I'd call this a cynical episode, but it's definitely it doesn't have time for it feels like, because it starts moving at such a frenetic pace as the kind of whistle stop tour around the 300 years of Vinden gathers momentum. It doesn't necessarily have that much time for these moments of quiet reflection, but with the Noah and Ellie stuff, it actually that is one of the few times this episode does kind of stop and let characters just have kind of character building dialogue with each other, and the describing paradise to each other is a conversation that these characters will have multiple times with each other across several decades, and it's always very, very kind of sweet and earnest.
Yeah, and to me it speaks to the quality of the writing, and also the quality of the situation, like the scenarios they're able to create, because first time we've ever heard Noah describing paradise to Elizabeth, but by the time it happens later again, it already feels it feels like their version of We're a Perfect Match.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's these two who are like fundamentally love each other and are drawn to each other, and that's the thing that they can rely on in this world, and it heightens the tragedy of what will happen to them.
Unfortunately, yes. So now we're in 1890. And we have the first sign of what's going to happen to Stranger here. So he's trying to get the dark matter ball going. It's kind of going okay, but then he has to go up and fix one of the Tesla coils or whatever I'm going to call them Tesla coils.
They are. I reckon they're Tesla coils. I mean, my only exposure to Tesla coils is the video game Red Alert. So, but I'm pretty sure that's what they look like.
Yeah, well, we'll just go with that. And he climbs up and gets zapped by the electric. I'm not going to call it lightning but it looks like lightning, but it doesn't come from the sky.
Could he not have turned this off before he went and grabbed a sort of magnetized or a coil with an electric current?
Konrad. You've clearly not been in a desperate situation like this. He clearly thinks it's going to work, and if he goes up and just is able to fix it,
gives it a little nudge. Yeah.
Like he thinks he's trying to save this experiment. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true. Well, he ends up with a gnarly burn as a result. Like a really
Here's
nasty
a question
burn.
for you, and I'm really interested to hear this question, the answer to this question. Based on him getting the burn from his arm here, what do you deduce from that? The fact that he got zapped by the machine.
As in what do I think happened to turn him into what we see later?
Yes,
I think it's just persistence. I don't think it's one thing. I think it is just he has done this. By the time we see him again in 1911, I think is when we see him again, something like that. He has done this so many times that he's just 100% burn.
Okay,
tissue,
I'm
burn
really
tissue.
glad that you picked up on that so easily, so like I did, because again, I've spoken before about the amount of comments come in on those answers videos that I did. 130,000 views or whatever I had. It's going to be a lot of people who watched the show and didn't really pay attention too much, but that was a big one that people were asking about. And even after this episode, people were asking, how did Adam get his scars? I think it's pretty plain, to be honest with you. It's like, well, just by doing this over and over and over again, he eventually got covered in scars because he kept getting zapped, basically.
Yeah, I'd be like, well, I mean, for a start, if you got all of those scars at once, you would die. Like your body, like your body can't deal with that much burn at once. It would just be like, I can't heal all of this, so I guess your legs are falling off now.
Not in 1890, anyway.
No, definitely not in 1890. So yeah, to me, it's just this episode is Stranger becoming Adam. That's his story. Like Stranger is one of the other stars of this episode, and this is the first. I guess it's hard to say it's the first step on that path because he's been taking lots of little steps towards it. But this is like the moment, the lightning rod moment, if you will, where it's like, oh shit, no turning back now, Stranger. Like you bear the first of many scars here.
Yep, I would agree wholeheartedly with you there. All right, so. Then we have a scene between him and Bartos. Bartos is waiting for him in his room and basically says, when's this machine going to be ready? You said we can get out of here. What's going on?
Yeah, and I think we just see this kind of a continuation of the previous scene where we see the sort of grand fatalistic streak that will define Adam's character coming to the fore in Stranger here, where he's like, this is bigger than us. We're here till the job's done, basically. Yeah,
makes sense to me. It also gives Bartos a little scene to show what his mentality is whenever he meets Silja Boy.
Yeah, Soldier Boy is here with a little bit of makeup on her scar, I think. Like, it wasn't as prominent here, but she was, turned up and battered her eyelashes at Bartos, which is all he needed at this point, really.
Yeah, and this was... Well, actually, did this confirm anything? I don't think this scene
confirm it, but
necessarily confirmed, but it's leading
kind of
to a
like-
confirmation.
I was like low key fist pumping at this point, like, come on!
Yeah.
But like, it wasn't, it wasn't fully celebrating yet.
So I think, can we now, like, having seen, basically we'll say this now though, having seen what we've seen in this episode, are you now willing to accept what I was heavily trying to railroad you on last week, in that she did have a miscarriage in the alt world?
Oh yeah, I think that's pretty obvious. Yeah, that it was just I think the miscarriage itself was a red herring to suggest, oh, maybe she'll have a miscarriage in the prime world, but I think she just got knocked up by Egon in the 50s.
Yeah. Right, okay. The reason why I was so heavily railroading you last week is because when I watched it, to be honest with you, I had such a visceral reaction to the red herring that they placed with Hannah, and then she had a miscarriage. In my head, I was like, and it was, you can see now looking back on it, it's like, there's no way they're showing that much blood without it being a miscarriage. But so I was like, so much like, oh my God, how did they do that to you? I thought that was Boris and Nivold.
Yes and no.
Yeah. Like the whole idea of like Ulrich and Hannah, Nielsen, Konrad, Nivold. And I was like, but then I put a video up about that. And then I was like, hang on a minute, that completely doesn't work. Because she wouldn't be called Konrad in the alt world. Anyway, let's move on.
I mean, to be honest, I'm glad we have like our Yasin is Alexander meme, because if we didn't have that, I could totally see myself arriving at Hannah's child being Boris Nivold as well.
Yeah, 100%. Okay, so 2023, we have who will become Stranger, the Jonas who will become Stranger, working with Claudia on the Dark Matter Ball in the future. It's still in its white form, so they haven't managed to make much headway on it. I like that.
We'll find out why later.
We will find out why later, and then we'll see. We'll see Claudia bringing a bit of professionalism to this outfit, hosing down their gear.
You say this. I became very anxious about the amount of wasted water that we saw in this scene. It's like, guys, the water isn't running anymore, I'm assuming. You got to be careful with this. Like, don't just hose it down willy-nilly. You got to recycle that irradiated water for something else.
Yeah, okay, I see that. But basically, Jonas is starting to question things, and and he says he can't do it anymore. And Claudia says you have to have faith, Jonas. You have to have faith.
Yeah, gotta have faith, as George Michael once said. Yeah,
you gotta have faith. Then Jonas goes to try and kill himself by hanging him in the same spot that his dad did. Jonas is a very poetic young man.
Yeah, I was going to say, this is very grimly poetic to be like, I'm going to go kill myself. What better place for it than the exact spot and beam that my father killed himself?
He doesn't know. He knows that beam can hold his weight.
That's true, actually. Yeah, but it's a purely logistical decision. It's like, well, that's the hanging beam.
The French delegation, she should have went to where the French delegation was hanging.
Holy shit, this scene is dark. It is. I didn't see it coming at all. I was sort of like, well, I mean, it's another one of those things where it kind of similar to when Prime Jonas is shot and killed. I was watching this like, what? This doesn't make sense, guys.
Until Noah came in, you were just like...
Until Noah comes in. But they linger on, the wide shot of Jonas for a long time. I think, so when I mean, it's a great... It's a great little scene between those two, because this entire episode is kind of about the relationship between Jonas, Noah, and Charlotte. If you're going to kind of break it down, Claudia rather, not Charlotte, going to break it down into its kind of core character components. And this is the beginning of one of those relationships. I think there are I'm going to say this now, listeners. There are, to my count, two flaws in this episode. Neither of them particularly big ones. My one beef with this scene is that I know we've kind of had it confirmed before, but the very explicit here, try and shoot yourself, it won't work, time won't allow you to do it. I would have liked that emphatic confirmation of that slightly earlier. I understand why it works here, because you get the mirroring of Noah pointing a gun at Jonas, and obviously in your mind you're like, not the last time that's going to happen, guys.
Yeah.
But I think I would have preferred that early in the season, just to really nail down like time isn't going to allow this guy to die. Maybe I would have put it before he gets shot, just to heighten the shock factor of him getting shot. The other flaw we'll get into as it comes up naturally. But apart from that, this was a great scene.
Yeah, I know what you mean, but at the same time, like, we have had some build up to it.
Yeah,
it's not
yeah,
like
they have
it's not like the
mentioned it
basement
before.
last week,
Yeah.
where there was no mention of a basement at all. Then, like, we have at least seen Adam Noah's tried to kill Adam before and it didn't work, so at least
Yeah.
we've seen something from it. So I don't know if I share the same thing as you, but I understand what you mean. It would have been nice to have something extra as well. What I will say is that this does, and I will say also, well, in the comments last week, people were saying that apparently in Germany most houses have basements. So
okay.
maybe that's our UK bias, is that we don't have basements.
Yeah.
So therefore, it needed build up for us, but maybe not German speakers.
Yeah, I think that's probably. I mean, I'm viewing this from an Anglocentric viewpoint because I expect everyone to conform to my to my ideas.
Yeah,
of what society
maybe
looks like.
maybe us saying why didn't they build up the fact that they had a basement is it's kind of like. What do you call it? It's like people in like a really remote town in like Africa or like a village in South America somewhere. If they finally got a TV and they watched us, and we just, like, at the end of a show, you take water out of a tap and they're like, hang on a minute, shouldn't they build up that they have running water?
Yeah, no, we've exposed our cultural biases there, and the egg is firmly on my face.
Yeah. Okay. So another thing I wanted to say, that this. Unfortunately, people who commented on the After Dark podcast back in season 2, whenever we were going through the episode where Noah does try and kill Adam, and I said that time wouldn't allow and the gun jammed, a lot of people who apparently, I thought everyone who watched this podcast had seen Dark, but a lot of people, a lot of what people were saying in the comments, or at least one person was saying, the gun didn't jam, it was the safety that was on. Like, the gun didn't jam, the safety was on. And I was like, right, but there's nothing wrong with saying the gun jammed, because we know what happens later in the show, because there's no one's arguing that the safety was on here. Like, the gun was jammed.
Noah knows how to use a gun. I don't think he would leave the safety on like at the most pivotal moment in his entire existence. But
He just displayed in this episode that he knows how to shoot a gun. Like, he shot it into the wall. So later in his life, he's not going to leave the safety on.
Yeah.
So
it's time,
the
worst possible
like, the
moment.
way it's been predetermined, because you can imagine, like, in this episode, they do show everything sort of completing the cycle. So the way time is predetermined, it is that at that moment, the gun jams, and that's the same. It's the same this time. I will also say something I thought you were going to pick up on as a bit of an issue in this scene, which I'm interested that you didn't pick up on it, is basically the idea that Noah is talking to Jonas, and Noah is the one at this age who tells Jonas that he can't die, but he's also the same person who tries to kill him later.
Yeah, but I think he's fueled by rage at that point. Like, I don't think. I think by the time he comes round to trying to kill him later, I don't think he's forgotten about this. I think he's just so angry about the fact that Adam took his daughter away from him and then lied about it, which isn't actually the order that things happened in, because when he confronts Stranger in this episode, Stranger doesn't actually know it's him that's ordered it.
Yeah.
But I think he's just so angry that he wants to try it, even though he knows it's almost certainly not going to work.
Well, actually, I would disagree with you. But I agree with your thematic analysis there. But I think that he does mention that your older self exists. I think probably because he thinks, well, it's Adam. I've never seen an older version of Adam. I can kill him.
It could be that as well. It could easily be that.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a bit of both, really. Okay, so then they go to the tunnel, and it is closed. And basically, Noah says, we need to open it up. You need to get Adam to take me to paradise.
Yeah. Take him down to the Paradise City. I'm not going to try and finish that lyric because I won't do a good job of rhyming it. But yeah, so we get the bromance of the century in Noah and Jonas starting off here.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so 1904.
Yeah, this is where one of the problems in this episode begins, listeners.
Okay, tell me, because this is Celia giving birth to who we will learn is Hanno. Another big theory for Konrad. Ding, ding, ding.
So I guess it's two flaws, really. Yeah, and it is. Thank you very much. I have those points. The flaw in this episode is that it sometimes strains against the limits of credibility with the aging and de-aging of the characters and their actors, because it's jumping around so much that they have to basically identify a point at which the middle character becomes the older character, or the younger character becomes the middle character.
Yeah.
And the ways they do it with the makeup are sometimes a little hard to believe. It's a tiny flaw. I'm only joking about it. Like, this is, I'm going to say this now, this is probably my favorite episode of the entire series, but I did find myself, and it started in this scene where I saw Bartos with his beard, and I was like, what the fuck is going on there, Bartos?
They didn't need
it didn't need that at all. And I'm going to mention it every time it comes up. You better believe I'm going to point out every time this is bad. But yeah, like it caught me out, because everything about the presentation of this episode is so stylish and the pacing is so good. That there's this one kind of like element of it that's not very good, and it really made me laugh rather than making me dislike it. But yeah, so Bartos and Silja have young Hanno here, and the expression on Bartos's face when Silja tells him the name makes me think that he already knows who this is and who this will become at this point.
Yeah, I got that impression too. I will also say, also whenever they say his name is Hanno and the Noah drone, like the Noah theme drone goes.
That was actually one of the midwives just in the background with like a hurdy-gurdy, just like.
Yeah. Also, I just wanted to sort of give my sort of little theory or little analysis here on the name Toba, because or Tauba. So basically, my opinion is that whenever they went back in time, Bartos started going by Bartos Tauba, because in order to not mess up his family line or whatever, I don't know, but maybe that was his alias, Bartos Tauba. And then obviously his son became Hanno Tauba, and then I'm assuming Agnes is Agnes Tauba as well for a while. So that's what I thought.
Yeah, that's totally believable. I think, why would you go by your real name in when you've been ripped out of your correct point in time and put into another one? I think it makes sense to go by an alias.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so 1974.
Whoa, 1974 and 1986.
Oh yes, it's two. So it starts off in 1974, and this is actually really cool. This the style, first time they've ever done this as well. Having multiple, like that thing where they sort of have different characters at different times. The same character.
They do
coming
like
in
the passage of time dissolve, where you're seeing him do lots of things over a period of time. Really cool presentation. Like you say, again, another thing that we've not seen them do before in Dark, where they're just like, you know what? I literally feel like they're on their victory lap at the moment with this episode. Like, they're sort of like, we've absolutely nailed this. We're bringing the plane into land. Why not just try some cool stuff and see how it works? And they absolutely nail it. So the him filling this bunker with science stuff obviously prompts the question, hey HG, what you building there, buddy? Because it's not something we've seen before. Yeah, the first ever clock. It's not something we've seen him build before, and this sure as shit doesn't look like the kind of thing that a clockmaker builds, which is what he would be at this point. That's going to play into my theory a bit later. He's supposed to be a clockmaker at this point, admittedly a clockmaker who has dabbled in, time travel and black hole physics and stuff, but still he's a clockmaker until Claudia brings him Stranger brings him the machine. But yeah, so that's really interesting. And then the match cut from it, well, it's not really a match cut, but the shift forward with him welding with the mask on and then lifts the mask up and it's now 1986. That I wanted to high five someone when that happens. I was like, that's genius, well done. But yeah, it's a great little scene, this. And again, wide angle, not wide angle, the widescreen aspect ratio is back again. It's only for the itchy townhouse scenes, almost as if the show is trying to tell us something.
Okay, so I'm going to come back to that then. Obviously, next there is another HD townhouse scene at least, so I'm sure we'll get back to it. Okay, so 2040. We now, as I'm sure you thought the same as me. Whenever 2040 was on the screen, the first time I watched this, I was like, holy shit. 20 years. Like,
just like they've just like, I feel like I know it wasn't just the scene before this, but there's this first off, the pacing of this episode to do this narrative structure that they're doing, and we talked about it briefly last week where they did the Claudia thing slightly before it actually happened, and they kind of dabbled in non-linear narrative. they've basically, I think they've done that, and then in this episode they've gone, what if everything was non-linear and we just jumped around? To keep the narrative making sense and to keep the pacing good is so impressive, and then to also have to hit these kind of narrative points where we see characters 20 years after we last saw them.
Yeah.
And the whole theme of that scene is they've been doing this for a while and they've been failing the entire time, but to still maintain that momentum is so impressive. And yeah, we get old Mark Vashke and I'm afraid to say another of the characters aging up in a dodgy way. Andres Peachman without the beard is a tragedy that I never wanted to witness. And Claudia with grey hair now as well.
Well, I will say about Claudia with grey hair, oh my god, she really is starting to look like that older actress.
Yeah. So there are, just to show, give the other side of this kind of joke flaw that I found. There are a couple in this.
I wouldn't call this a flaw, to be honest with you.
No, I mean it's not really a flaw.
It's not a flaw at all, really. You're just saying that you didn't like Bartos's beard. It's understandable that someone would look weird with a beard.
You wait until
it does take you out of it. It does take you out of it. Also, it's understandable that someone would be clean shaven. But okay, I'm still waiting for it. But
so Claudia is one of the ones actually who does transition to her older self very seamlessly. There's a couple in this who either their younger self or their older self is presented brilliantly, and their transition looks great. So yeah, she looks great. And Andres Peachman, it's less that it's not a good presentation of his character. I was just sad to see him without a beard because his beard, he looks older without the beard actually.
I think I might agree with you there. He does actually look older. Okay, so now we're on to my favorite scene from the whole series.
Is this Stranger and Noah having the chat?
Oh no, we'll talk about that first. Okay.
Okay. So I won't spend too long on this, but it's just I think the fact that we see them in 2040, I think recontextualizes the conversation that Noah and Ellie have been having, and Jonas for that matter, talking about, we'll find paradise together, and it immediately makes it much sadder, much more melancholy, because we know that they're going to be doing it for 20 years and they're still not going to make it. And then there's just a couple of key lines, I think, in the conversation between Noah and Stranger. So the maybe a Claudia doesn't want it to work line, kind of showing that there's already these sort of seeds of discontent between the three of them. And then we see the Stranger clearly on the path to becoming the guy who will turn up in season 1 when he's talking about Adam lied, I can stop this. He has that kind of defiant naivety that will ultimately lead him down exactly the same path that his older self went down. And he says the slightly, it's very ironic, and it's slightly iconic line, "This time it'll work," which, given the song that plays during the montage when he's doing it, but with the "maybe this time I'll escape my past," really kind of, it just put me back in mind of that montage, and it's fantastic.
Yeah, and this is the point in the show where you really are realizing that actually that Stranger we saw in the first season is our Jonas. It is just our character, who is just a little, it's not a new version of him, it is him, and it is very heart-wrenching at the same time as, it is ironically dramatic. There's a lot of dramatic irony there, but it also makes you sort of, you feel like a bit superior to Jonas here, because you're like, Jonas, right? Okay, so my favorite scene from the whole show, and this is the scene that makes Claudia my favorite character.
Oh yeah.
Has there ever been a more badass move in any film or TV than to shoot yourself in the head?
Yeah, this was the reveal that Claudia has still been kind of sabotaging them. I don't know how actively she's been sabotaging them, but she certainly hasn't been helping them all this time. And then we finally see her realize that what Prime old Claudia said to her all those years ago couldn't possibly what this Claudia is asking her for. Yeah. And then just unquestioningly just drops her like a bad habit. It's so cool. I punched the air, or wanted to punch the air, when Claudia just shot herself in the head. And then to not to rush away from the scene, if you want to talk about it a bit more, we certainly can, but the next scene after this, where she's just right, stick my hair in a ponytail, I'm going on a sneaking mission to Eric Lux, get fucked.
Yeah, to be honest with you, I don't have much more to say about that scene in the forest. It's just that everything you said there. I just love the scene. I love you can see the cogs working in Claudia's head the whole time. Have you said she's sort of been the sleeper in this season? She's been built up in the first couple of seasons as being so important, and then in this season she's sort of been on the back burner, and now in this episode she's just like, 2 episodes to go. I don't believe you.
Yeah.
Bang. Let's go.
This episode, I mean, I've been thinking this for like the whole season. Like, Claudia's up to something. Like, because, and this episode really confirmed it for me that neither Marta or neither Eva nor Adam really know what is going on here, and that's completely clear by the end of the episode, that both of their plans aren't going to end up the way they want them. They want things to end up, and this is the moment for me where Claudia's like, "Yeah, I'm taking this into my own hands," and it just made me want to punch the air. I was like, "Yes, finally, Claudia's arrived." Tagged in Claudia, and just interestingly, this is a little, I guess this is a theory. I don't think the show's ever going to confirm this. I was reluctant to put it on The Matrix, but she has the gun. The last time we saw it, I believe, was in Agnes's possession. So do you think Agnes has come and given her this? Because we've seen Agnes travel, and unless she turns up in the next episode, I was just thinking, maybe Agnes, has turned up at some point in the intervening 20 years and giving Claudia the bits that she left.
I don't think we necessarily need to or should analyze whether every gun is the same gun.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same model of gun. That's the thing that's kind of like that stands out to me.
Yeah,
I'd be interesting to follow the passage of that gun through time, because
I don't know where she would have got it from. I think
you are right though. It might not be the same gun.
I mean, like she has been she's staying in the police station.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, so maybe
I would have much preferred like an AK-47.
Oh yeah, that's what I was imagining. Yeah, she rolls up with sunglasses, like eat shit, Claudia, and then
and then she just. I love that she ties her hair back and she's like, you know what? Here we go. Goes to Eva's lair.
So this is the other bad aging. Well, one of the bad, like, this looks like the older Eva or the older Marta has put a wig on to try and make herself look younger, which I think is probably what they did.
That's exactly what they did.
Yeah, it doesn't look good. If you're telling me that like Stranger Marta, like in the sort of transition period to Eva, looked like this, I'm saying the years were unkind to that woman.
Well, they were.
Yeah, I guess they were. That's
but also,
true.
I think a better way to do it maybe would have just to make her sort of a little bit more grey than she was. Yeah, like I think with her face already being so sort of like a face of such an old woman, they probably needed to have a little bit of grey. Having said that, like the only thing that all of these changes, the only thing that took me out of it was Bartos's beard.
Bartos's beard, and I won't mention it later, but the fact that Bartos looks, I'm just scrolling back now, so it was 19.
No, I know. It was like
1904
when
and then 6 years later, he looks like the older guy. It's like, whoa, like what happened there, Bartos? Working in the mines is a hard life.
I think personally, the way to fix that would have been just to have, whenever Celia has the baby the first time, to have the two older actors playing Celia and Bartos from the first baby. That's
probably what I would have done.
But I suppose they were trying to give that moment of realizing that Hanno was like Noah was his child to the actor.
Younger,
Like, I get it.
It's not I'm kind of joking about this. It's really not that big of a deal. It just made me laugh every time someone turned up, and I was like, "Oh, you are pushing the credibility of this aging process here, guys." But but this scene is great. Like Claudia turning up just straight into character. She has like a flair for the dramatic, clearly.
I will just say one of your favorite shows is It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, as it is mine, and at least it's not as bad as when they de-age Frank.
Yeah, that is true.
Danny DeVito just as like literally the exact same with a wig on, being 21 years old.
Put a wig on and that's it. Like that's all we're doing. Maybe they should have just done that for I would have loved if they'd have done it with Stranger, just given him lots of different wigs as like the years pass. But yeah, and this is the only time I think that we see Eva in this episode. In fact, the only time I think we see the alt world in this entire episode.
Yeah, because it's completing what we know as our sort of original Adam's world, Prime world cycle, this episode. So there wasn't really too much necessary.
Oh yeah, there's one later actually as well that I've forgotten about. But the only reason I mention that is because obviously you get the effect to take us to this world. You don't get it coming back in the next scene, which for a couple of scenes, on the first time I watched this, really confused me because I was like, are we in alt 1910 here?
I think it's because they did the transition with the numbers again.
Yeah, I think you're right.
So it's sort of the bloop wasn't needed.
But I was furiously writing stuff down, like, what's going on in 1910, guys? Why are all these Prime World characters here? And then I realized that it was probably just it probably actually was the Prime World.
Take it frame by frame, and they probably did a shlabloop during the thing. But also, we didn't mention Eva here gives. Well, it's like sort of mid between Stranger and Eva, but gives Claudia the plans to the thing, saying, "Give these to Tannhaus."
Yeah, she does.
And I don't know if you picked up on it, but it was noticeable in the first episode of this season. That the unknown Gary, the cleanup crew, they actually took those plans from Sigmundus before they burnt it. Did you realize that?
I'm trying to think back to it now. If I did, it certainly hasn't stayed with me that they took those plans.
So that was something we could have maybe you didn't realize it and I didn't say anything, but that's something that happened back then. So basically, that's these plans now being given to Claudia.
So it's another like bootstrappy thing where they're never actually being written; they're just being passed between Eric Lux and Sigmundus.
Yeah, because if you didn't realize that they were originally, you might think that these characters created the plans. Yeah. But I think it's actually, I don't necessarily think that it's this exact same paper, because that would have it is infinite, I suppose. So it has to be at the same state as it was. It can never it can never degrade, really.
Time won't let it decay. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So that's basically where they were. Anyway, okay, so 1910.
Yep.
We get basically the exact same establishing shot of the building, and we go in. Now we've got middle-aged Bartos.
You really the child raising did not agree with Bartos because it's really aged him. Unfortunately, that process.
Yeah, if you look at the age of Hanno as well, it's been like 6 or 7 years, and geez, it has not been good to him.
Yeah, but it was hard in the 1910s. Life was hard in the country.
That's true. So Agnes is born. Celia's died. What did you think of that?
Yeah, that took me by surprise. I've got some thought. Well, I'll probably come back to my kind of reflections on Celia as a character in her final scene, broadly speaking, and to give listeners a brief glimpse into how I felt. Holy shit, she had a bad life. It really, time was not kind to Celia in the brief time she had. There are a few characters who. This is a slight aside. There are a few characters who die in this period, in this episode, and maybe this is going to get confirmed next episode, or maybe I'm misremembering this, but I remember when Jonas got to 1920, as he was rolling up to the Sigmundus lodge or whatever, a coffin goes past him.
Yeah, in 1920.
Yeah, in 1920, and I was desperately trying to logic a way into figuring out which of the two characters who die here could potentially be in that coffin, despite it being like 10 years before.
Well, I think the only character who could possibly be in that coffin, in my opinion, would be Bartos. But apparently some people said it looks like a child's coffin.
I thought it looked like a child's coffin.
Yeah, so but so maybe this is completely wrong, but I know Bartos died in like January 2021.
Yeah.
And then the coffin was in June 2021. And so maybe Noah just left his body out there, and then eventually it was found by someone. So that's why 5 months later they had a funeral, because they found the body then. But that's the only thing I can think of, to be honest.
Yeah, I can't see them taking 10 years to bury to bury Celia or the other character who dies in this in this period.
Like we haven't had confirmation that they changed much after season. Like, we know that they hadn't fully written everything yet after season 2 for season 3, because the idea of like Marta having a cut on her face, that wasn't there at the end of season 2 originally. So we know that they didn't have everything fleshed out fully. So maybe their original plan was, we'll put a funeral carriage here, and then we might put someone in it.
Might
later.
use it, maybe not. Yeah, maybe it's just
maybe
it's just a tonal thing. It just makes it look grim.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so 2041 now. And tell me about Paradise. Sorry?
There's something very important that I have to establish at the beginning of the scene, right? Yep. We have an establishing shot of the moon in the lexicon of cinema, that means that one of Noah, Charlotte, or Ellie is either a werewolf or is going to turn into a werewolf in this scene. Those are the rules. I don't make the rules.
You've just said that out loud on the podcast, so that has to go in the Matrix.
Like when I saw that, I was like, oh, it's American Werewolf in London. Here we go. So I'm looking forward to seeing which of these characters has either been a werewolf the entire time or is bitten by a werewolf and contracts lycanthropy as a result.
Yeah, okay.
So carry on anyway.
We'll wait and see. We got a whole hour of television left.
Yeah,
so.
I know. There's plenty can happen.
Like whole films only are 2 hours long, so basically with half a film, that's a load of time.
Exactly.
So tell me about Paradise. We get that moment again, and then we also get Charlotte and Elizabeth coming and stealing the baby.
Yeah, and this is it's a very bittersweet scene. This because you get the Ellie and Noah having the same conversation they've had. You can imagine them having it, every couple of days for the last 20 years. And it's this sort of confirmation that they haven't lost hope, despite how hopeless their situation probably seems.
Mm-hmm.
But then it's juxtaposed with them having their baby stolen by Charlotte and Ellie and Ellie's reaction. Actually, Ellie is one of the other characters I was going to mention who the process of making her look younger for the one who's with Noah at the moment is fantastic. She looks She looks spot on.
Well, I think that because that is like she just looks like she actually does in real life.
Yeah, maybe they've obviously she hasn't got like a milky scarred eye. And
well, that is the same actress,
No, I know, but like she doesn't have quite as many horrific scars as her real self.
You did actually get this is actually a theory wrong of yours because you thought that Ellie and Noah would actually eventually end up back in time somewhere.
Yeah. I'm still trying to figure out where that bloody photograph of them in like a snow dappled wood came from, because I really don't feel like they would be out taking photographs in 2040.
That wasn't snow, that was like the floaty things.
Oh, what the nuclear ash.
Yeah.
Just going for a nice walk
they still have to live their life, like 20 years. I
guess so.
I'm sure they went and broke into an off license or something, and then Noah and Jonas were having a load of drinks and stuff. Like, it would have been a normal life, kinda.
I guess so. Yeah, you have to keep on living. But yeah, so you're absolutely right. That was one of the ones I got wrong. I thought young Noah and Ellie were going to get out of Dodge and go and raise their child somewhere else. But as it turns out, it was raised here. And I think it is a very, very bittersweet scene. This, particularly with how it ends after Noah goes off to confront a stranger.
Yeah. So we'll talk about that in a second. First of all, what do you think about the fact that Charlotte stole herself?
Yeah, it's all sorts of fucked up.
And they're doing it. They know that like Elizabeth has to steal her own child from herself because if she doesn't, she won't exist.
Yeah. It's really, really messed up. And I was the pain on Ellie's face when she's taking her own daughter away from herself is fantastic acting. Like, she really sells it, and it's very believable because it's probably it's the first time Ellie has seen her daughter. Well, no, actually that's not true.
Except for middle-aged
Charlotte
daughter
for a while, yeah, but like seeing her correct daughter, if you like, since this point. So easily 20 years. Or actually, what is this? It's 2041. So it'd be like 10 and a bit years, I guess.
Yeah. Also, Konrad knows that it's the same baby. It's the same Charlotte. It's not two Charlottes. Just because he said correct one, don't jump at him, please. Okay.
Thank you.
We have to do that because there's always someone. There's always some little rascal. All right. So Noah goes around, puts Stranger up against the wall, not in a loving way.
No.
At his throat, not in a loving way.
I really like the irony of this scene, that this is the first time that Noah has been betrayed by Jonas, but also the last time he will be betrayed by Jonas, because Adam's last act of betrayal towards Noah is to take his child away from him, or their child away from them, and sort of displace it. Mm-hmm. So while Stranger Jonas doesn't know what's going on, and kind of points them towards not in this scene, but later on he'll point them towards Claudia. Mm-hmm. It is actually the first instance of him betraying his friend. And Mark Vashke's acting here is great. The way he kind of like bunches up his jaw and kind of like wordlessly flexes it as he tries to work out the anger that he's feeling, and then drops the amazing "I wish you all the suffering in the world" as he walks away. Which, to be honest, Your wish is going to be granted, Noah. Just give it a little while.
Yeah. This man will suffer, and he has suffered a lot already. So it will
Don't you
happen.
worry about that. Like, time has a hell of a time in store for old Jonas.
Yeah, and I don't know about you, but like, I think that both these two actors, as well as the two younger actors, in terms of these two characters, I think that they're believably sort of chums. You know, they like, I could believe that for 20 years they actually were pretty good friends, and like, so they hung out together, and like they sort of came to know each other very, very well. I don't know. Like the chemistry between them as friends, or even friends turned enemies, really works for me.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think the continued sort of humanization of Noah's character has kind of flown under the radar a little bit, because obviously he died, so he wasn't as prominent a part of the show. But it's really spectacular that they've managed to take a character who was pretty emotionless, pretty one dimensional, a very cool dimension, but one dimensional in the first season, and turn him into this character who's very well fleshed out and is able to have these very believable conversations with someone they'll call a friend. So yeah, I totally agree. I think the chemistry between these guys is great.
Yep. So then Noah goes back to Elizabeth and says, "I'm going to go and find out what's going on." I think he did mention something about going to Claudia. That's so.
Yeah, I think
that was to Jonas. That was to Jonas, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yep. So we'll come back to that a little later on.
Well, I mean, I think this is the last time these two see each other, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, except for, actually,
when he sees his kid, when he'll see her younger self, but I don't think Noah will ever see his wife or his partner again after this, which makes it really, really tragic.
That's interesting, actually, that idea. I've seen before someone say in the comments, which I think is an interesting point, that maybe this Noah isn't actually the one who... someone I put across an idea that maybe the alt Noah is the one who came and gave the watch to Elizabeth when in first season. But that doesn't actually hold up to scrutiny, I don't think, because we do know at the end of last episode that Adam has the watch to give to Noah. Yeah, so that doesn't really hold up to scrutiny, I don't think, but it's still an idea we could look into, maybe.
Yeah.
Okay, so I will say this before we move off this scene. When he does come back to Elizabeth in the cabin, and when he comes back to Elizabeth in the cabin, and he sort of looks at her and just shakes his head. It was really heartbreaking for me. I really love that little acting moment.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's a great final scene between them, and if it is indeed the last time these characters see each other in their correct times, then it's a very heartbreaking way for a romance to end.
Yep. Okay, 1986 again.
Yep.
Back with Hotch-Gee, or whatever you say, Townhouse.
Yeah, Hagi.
Yeah,
I can't remember what G is. It might be Gee. Yeah.
I think it's Gee.
Right. All right. Here we go. So what's this device doing? All right, that's my that's my question. And I've got so the fact he's building this device, the aspect ratio change, and the pressing of the two buttons at once to activate it has given me a theory. Right.
Right.
Okay, so I'm going to cast your mind back, listeners.
By the way, from here on out, I'm not going to say anything because I don't want anyone to jump down my throat for any reason. Okay?
Yeah, you have to just shut your mouth. So cast your minds back to season 1, when Tannhaus spoke at length about the idea of the rule of threes, like how the number 33 repeats itself throughout nature and human history and science. And this idea of things coming in threes is reinforced by the Triquetra imagery that we see throughout the show and in other places as well. And then now, in this episode, we are seeing a different looking Tannhaus. Obviously, it's the 70s, so it's plausible he just looks different between the 70s and the 80s, but it's notable that they're presenting to us a different version of Tannhaus than we've seen previously, a different period in his life. In a new aspect ratio that they've never used before, filmed with presentational elements that they've never used before as well, like dissolves and animation and fourth wall breaking conversations to the camera, building a machine that we haven't seen, that we don't know the function of, but which has two buttons in a place he shouldn't be, which is the bunker. And my theory is that this Tannhaus is in a third world and he is building this he is building this machine to try and access another world because his family has died. His son and wife and granddaughter have died, and he wants to try and undo their deaths. And when he's pressing this button, he is essentially splitting time and creating the alt world and the prime world that we've seen everything happen in up until this point. And so the origin, in fact, isn't Marta and Jonas having a baby together. The origin is the moment that H.G. Tannhaus presses these buttons, or if you want to get kind of to abstract it, the origin is the heartbreak that an old man feels at losing his family.
Okay, so what you're basically saying is everything we've seen in the two worlds that we've seen so far can be akin to Biff's casino in Back to the Future 2.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So like but unlike that, I think what like my dream, if I'm right, my dream for how this ends is that Claudia has, I think, figured out how to stop Tannhaus from or in fact no, she obviously can't stop him from pressing these buttons because he's just done it in this episode, but she's figured out a way to stop this from being created. This in the origin world is what I've called it. So you've got prime world, alt world, and then the origin world kind of sits at the top of the triquetra, if you want to use the imagery that they've shown previously. Claudia, I think, has hopefully figured out a way to stop this split from happening. I would be really happy if the next episode is them figuring that out and then us just going back to Vinden where this never happened and all the characters are present and everyone, maybe Marta and Jonas, can get together. I don't think it will be quite as blissful as that. I think there's going to be some characters who don't exist as a result of this, but that's my big theory coming out of this. I just think there's so much in the present, there's so much different and new in the way that this Tannhaus stuff is presented that there's got to be a reason for that. It can't just be like, oh no, let's shoot it in a really wide aspect ratio for lols. Like, there's got to be a reason.
Okay. I'm not going to say anything one way or the other because I realize that we're so late in the series now that no matter what I say, people will be annoyed at me for it, and I understand the annoyance, to be honest with you. So I'm just going to let that sit. It is interesting to me. I think if I was in your shoes, something has to happen, obviously, because at the end of this episode, basically the cycle is complete.
Yeah, Marta's like dust in the like time wind at this point. Like she's just been obliterated. So
I actually loved when I got to the end of this episode. In my mind, I was like, obviously there's one or two things that do point to something else happening. You know, like we don't really know why Claudia's showing up at the end. We'll talk about that at the end. But most of the stuff we've seen could actually be like, if they just put the last episode as like a replay of the first, it would mostly match up.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, the cycle could just, I mean, you could replace, not to get ahead of ourselves, but you could replace the end of this episode with, or Claudia rocking up at the end of this episode with Eva rocking up, shooting Adam, then shooting herself in the head, fade to black, run the first episode again, and it would work pretty much perfectly. So the fact there's another episode left makes me curious about what's actually going to happen in it. I hope that's not what they do. I did at one point think, is this just going to be a loop that perpetuates forever? And maybe it still will be, but I hope not.
Yeah, but I think your theory is grounded in a lot of evidence there, and it goes, to be honest with you, all the way back to stuff we saw in the first episode or two about the three things.
Yeah, so. I like when I was watching it, I didn't really sort of make that connection to the rule of threes at the time, the first time I watched it, and then the second time I watched it, I was like, wait, hold on, Tannhaus said something about this. I'm going to go back and check this out, and science stuff normally passes me by, but that one I was like, all right, that seems important to this.
Okay, so just run me through, like you said, those three worlds. What did you call them again?
So you got the alt world and the prime world, which are the ones we've seen lots of, and then the one with the wide aspect ratio that Tannhaus has built this new looking machine in. I just called the origin world because I think the bit where he presses those buttons and turns the machine on is the origin of this split. Yeah,
that makes sense, because that, like, the word origin is something that they have used multiple times in the show already.
I guess so. Yeah,
because they've been searching for the origin. So you've basically just come up with a new theory of what the origin is. Okay, that's cool.
Yeah. I don't. Awesome. I mean, and by the end of this, I think it's confirmed that the origin isn't what anyone thinks it is.
Oh, I want to have a discussion about that with you then.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we could probably get to it
because I thought you would notice something that you didn't. Then, okay.
Okay.
I'll only talk about it if I think it won't give anything away. But there's something that you haven't picked up on based on that statement.
Okay.
Okay, so 1911. This time
Yes.
we get Hannah and Celia, looking very late 80s, early 90s, I will say.
Yeah, yeah, Hannah, you can take the girl out of the 80s, but you can't take the 80s out of the girl here. Like she found, God love her, somehow she found like a way to perm her hair in in 1911.
Well, no. Well, as far as I was concerned, like this costume, the costume they were in, the way they're styled, made me think that she didn't stay in 55 or 54. She went forward to the 80s, and that's where she had the baby. That's
Oh, maybe. Yeah, that would make more sense. I just figured she was like, I'm just going to bring 80s fashion to the 20s or something.
Yeah. Okay. First, so basically, when I first saw her, first thing I was thinking to myself was, 1911. That machine she has can only travel 33 years. How the hell is she here? That's the first thing, because even the age of Celia doesn't match up at all. Because Celia would have to be near 20 for the timing to add up here. So we get the answer pretty quickly. It's because Eva basically took her here. Because she's talking to, we'll call him Adam, Stranger Adam.
Yeah.
And they basically had... she talks about Eva coming to visit her, so we can all imagine Eva took her here because her little gold ball breaks the cycle. So what did you think about Hannah turning up here, first of all?
So that was another theory in my matrix where I was like, yes, racking up the points on the Celia.
Did you? The Celia, yes.
Yeah, because I said Celia was going to be Hannah's baby as well, which wasn't. I mean, it was kind of. By this point, I was like 90% of the way there, but when she turned up with her, I was like, okay, nice. So I was pretty pleased with that. The conversation with Bartos as he's working on the car is really interesting because he repeats something that Adam himself has said, where he says traveling has left its mark on him.
Yeah.
And obviously, with what we've seen earlier in this episode, it's this really brilliant foreshadowing and of the reveal of Stranger / Adam as he has become.
What did you think about this? Like they had to show a stranger in this makeup. I think
this was great.
They had to do it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean this was brilliant. Like the slow like pacing of the reveal, like letting it sit, letting that kind of sense of dread at finally being exposed to the version of the version of Stranger who has essentially become Adam was all brilliantly done. And then the extreme close up with the turn and the reveal, and the first thing he says to his mother is just, "How did you find us?" So it's very like it immediately just speaks of this completely broken man.
Yeah, and I will just say now, we've been defenders of Hannah multiple times throughout the watching of this show, but at the same time also taking that with a grain of salt, saying she is clearly a bit of a psycho, psycho narcissist, definitely. But I will say that this scene, did you notice this, Konrad? She took responsibility for everything.
It's so typical.
And and I said to myself, you know what? That's exactly what it would be. A gaslit woman takes responsibility for it and then gets killed by one of the men who've abused her.
Yeah. I mean, I told you like a while back, promiscuous women in these kind of settings don't tend to last that long based on noir tropes, and admittedly the show hasn't really followed those quite as closely as I thought it would. But yeah, I mean, Hannah, I feel like her contrition is very genuine here. She's clearly spent some time raising Celia, so I don't get the impression that she's running from anything to get here. I think she's come here of her own free will because she wants to try and find her son.
And she came because she was told that Jonas is looking for her and needs her.
Yeah, exactly. Like, so she for all the flaws that Hannah has, she still loves her son. I don't think you can ever question that, and she does want to make things right with him here. So I think her taking responsibility for this is a marked step forward for a character. It is a bit of a better late than never kind of moment. It's like only took you 50
at the same
years,
time, like what is she taking responsibility for? Like, what was her fault?
Yeah, I mean that's a good point. When she says everything's my fault, I don't actually think if she even knows what she's taking responsibility for. I think she just knows that Jonas is angry at her and she wants to look after her son. Yeah. So she just wants to take responsibility for it and care for him. Because, what did she do? She had an affair with Ulrich. And then she had an affair with Egon. But I mean, neither of those times. I guess actually with Ulrich, she was involved with someone at that time, so the fault was equally on her part. But I mean, in Egon's case, yes, you shouldn't be seducing married men. But at the same time, Egon's a grown up. Like he can make those decisions for himself.
Well, we don't blame the other woman. We blame the man. That's the same way if it was the genders were reversed. If the woman was the one cheating, we blame the woman. We don't blame the other man.
Yeah, exactly. Like, so, I mean, Hannah's indiscretions in this series are pretty minor in the grand scheme of things, even though they've had quite big results because she's ended up having children that have played a big part in things. She doesn't have that much to apologize for. Certainly not to Jonas.
Yeah, and this moment of it's kind of like the end of a redemptive arc in a way, but it's not really because she didn't really have anything to redeem herself for. I suppose she did try and blackmail, but that didn't even really go anywhere. But I will say as well is that it's stark contrast to Ulrich, who had didn't have any regret. No. Even when he found out that even when he probably eventually put the things together in his head that he actually caused Helga to eventually take his son, he probably still didn't regret doing it because we've never
seen Ulrich regret anything. Like the only moment Ulrich has been regretful, I think. Well, it's not regretful really, but we've seen him have to deal with the repercussions of his actions, and he is sad, but I don't think he regrets his actions. I think he regrets getting caught. But yeah, I think Hannah at least has this bookend to her character arc where at the end of her life, she is sorry for things she doesn't really need to be sorry for, purely because she's trying to look out for her children.
Yep, and if we didn't think that this was Adam already because of the makeup, I think the moment that he I was going to say strangle, it's even more horrific than that. He just puts his hands over her mouth and nose and suffocates her that way. He kills her in the same room as his sister/daughter. We'll talk about that in the next episode of the podcast. The fact that it's Celia is actually his sister. So that is really interesting to me. Like, this is the moment I thought, like, this is tonally, thematically, this is Adam now.
Yeah, 100%. And I think the dialogue, him repeating something that Noah has, like Claudia passed on to Noah, who is now who passed it on to Adam, this "you don't belong here" sentiment. And it's interesting to see how those three characters have interpreted that sentiment. And here we see Adam's interpretation of it, which is to horrifically murder his mother. And to be honest, actually, I thought this was worse than it was, because I thought he was like Red Viper / the Mountaining her with like pushing his thumbs through her eyes, and I was like, holy shit, that is a horrible way to kill your mother. And then I realized, I mean, it's still pretty bad, asphyxiating her, but it wasn't quite as bad as I thought it was.
Exploding her head.
Yeah, just exploding her head, and then be like, shh, your mum's sleeping. Skull everywhere. And
then the horrific moment where he picks up Celia and says, "I'm going to show you a secret." Takes her in the arms. She watches her mother as they walk out the room. Where he's taking her, I can only imagine, to punt her through the portal.
Off you go.
The future.
Yeah. I mean, and what better time to talk about it than this? Man, Celia had a rough life. So I mean, she was raised by Hannah for a bit, which, I mean, maybe Hannah really looked after her, but I don't know. I get the impression Hannah maybe wasn't always the best mother to her children as much as she cared for them. Then she's stolen from her after she's murdered, sent to presumably the post-apocalyptic future to fend for herself with Ellie, and then she was dead through childbirth by her late 20s. So it's, that's not a good run. Like, she did not have a good life.
No, definitely not. It's one of the, like, if you really just take it in isolation, it's one of the more tragic stories of the show.
Yeah,
one of the more tragic characters.
Yeah, absolutely. And
then instead of having the fast ticking of the thing, they slowly creep up again. A difference to 1920, and this is Noah returning. Now, I want to ask you a question, which I know is going to come up in the unanswered questions, so I'm going to ask it now, so it doesn't have to be. What's your theory on how Noah got here? Because it doesn't work with the times, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a good question. I hadn't thought too much about that, actually.
There is a very obvious answer, but I just want to see if you can come to it yourself. Because I'm testing you. Okay,
that's good. I like being tested live on air where I can't fabricate my own intelligence. I mean, I'd like Claudia has the ball thing.
Ding, now. Ding, ding.
So I mean, she could have done. The reason I didn't immediately go to that is because would he trust her to do it? But I guess he doesn't really trust Jonas at this point either.
Well,
so
I would say I don't think it was the ball that she did it with. I think that, you know how they were saying that old Claudia was saying, let's slow it down. I think at that stage that she was fully able to use the machine. I think she could have taken him with the gold ball, but I personally believe that she actually sent him through the dark matter machine in the future in 2041 or whatever it is.
Yeah, she could have done that too, but yeah, I don't. It's got to be one of those two, and it's not going to be Jonas at this point, so, because he doesn't trust him.
It was definitely Claudia because he was going to confront Claudia, and I'm sure Claudia would be like, "Listen, just go and ask Adam about it. I'll send you to the manager."
Yeah, listen, you want the answers? Go to the 20s. I haven't got time for this. All right, I'm trying to save the universe.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so he comes back. He realizes. Interesting that he didn't realize this would happen when he got here.
Yeah, he does seem surprised, which you remember this, right? Like you were here.
But I will say that this version, like this Mark Vasky version of Noah, is not the same Mark Vasky. Well, it is the same. Again, commenters, please. But he's more naive. He still is the sort of naive young Noah still.
Yeah.
And whenever he goes in with Adam in the next scene, gets given the Bible. That's him now becoming the Noah that we saw in the first season. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think I agree with that. Like, he's still kind of like led by his emotions here, and that sort of move to someone who's quite neutral and emotionless is where his transition into the real Noah character that we got to know in season 1 is most evident. I think in the scene after he walks into the Sigmundus Lodge, where he speaks to Adam, it really struck me, given everything we've seen so far in season 3, that the emphasis they put on this book, which we know was written by Gary and the rest of the cleanup crew.
They're all called Gary.
They are all called Gary, yeah, of course. The more I think about this, the more I think it must be a red herring, because it was written by them and they're clearly working for Eva. So there can't be anything, I mean, I guess it's confirmed by the end of this episode, but there can't be anything in this book that's actually going to lead them to untying the knot.
True. This book, in my mind, would lead them to finish it, like having it all complete. Having said that, I think Jonas feels that he's got one, or Adam feels like he's got one over on Eva. He's like, we've got her book. Yeah. We've got her book, and therefore we know everything that's going to happen, so that then we can find where to break it. That's what I think. Yeah,
I think you're right. But it's a nice, yet another really cool moment of dramatic irony in this episode, where it's like, you guys are all just flying blind here. Like, no one knows what they're doing apart from Claudia.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Okay, so this episode's IMDb rating, 9.6, which I think is one of the highest out of any episode.
Yeah, I mean, I think at that point, it's just like, just give it a 10. I know I've joked about like the straining credibility of some of the characters' appearance in this, but this is amazing, this episode. Like, this deserves a 10.
It is. I'm just having a very, very quick look here. Nothing in season 1 was that high. I'm also having a look here. Okay, the only other thing that's been that high has been An Endless Cycle, which is episode 2, season 2, episode 6.
Yeah, I mean, that was a really good, but that's like a chamber piece.
Yeah,
it's a very different kind of episode of television. Not to say either is fun, inherently better or worse than the other, but yeah, I think they both deserve 10s. Like, this was so good. I think I said it at the beginning, but this is such a virtuosic episode presentationally. I do feel like they were almost like showboating with this. They're sort of flying high, finish line is in sight, and they're just trying stuff, different aspect ratios, the diffuses in the townhouse building the machine stuff, the overlay for the year, like the completely non-linear narrative where it's just jumping around and trusting the viewer to follow it. I feel like they just stuffed so many cool ideas into this episode, and they nailed all of them.
Yeah, that's awesome. I will say, before we finish, that the last episode has got 9.7 rating.
Okay. It's going to be
the last episode is rated the highest of any episode from the whole show.
Okay. I wonder how often that is the case, though. I feel like a lot of last episodes are either the highest rated episode of the entire season,
or the lowest.
Or the lowest. Because people are like, what was that?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but I mean, I'd like this will take some beating, to be honest, because this was pretty much perfect. And and I'd be surprised if they nail 2 of those in a row. But we shall see. I'm looking forward to it.
Okay, very great and interesting. Now, very great. I don't know what I'm talking about. Basically, guys. So I don't have any segments today. We could do another Silja Boy. I mean, I think it's pretty strange to hear the character say her own name wrong, but we'll not do that. So basically, what we are going to do is we are going to do our questions in the next episode, which is going to be on Friday as a special Friday release. That'll be the After Dark podcast episode 32. And in that episode as well, we're going to go through the family tree on Eva's floor. Because I think at this stage in the show, we can do that. I think that the only issue with doing that is that maybe like there's a couple of characters in the alt world, for example, who we haven't seen yet, but they are still on the family tree, and their face isn't there because we haven't seen them. So you'll sort of know that we don't meet someone. I think that's the only issue we would have, but I personally don't think that's a big issue at all. So we're going to do that. We're going to do that for Friday, and in that episode, we're going to put all your questions in it. So I mentioned earlier as well, we have an email or 2 to get through as well. They'll be in the Friday episode, okay? But apart from that, if you subscribe on audio apps, I'm sure you all have been very impressed with Konrad this whole time. We've got one more episode to go, and then we find out. So this is actually the end of Konrad's theories now, because there's no more theories. You're not going to be making theories in the next one. So that's end of an era. Dark theories for Konrad is over.
Yeah, well, I don't know.
Unless you throw out a theory in the episode, Friday episode. You might.
Yeah, I guess I could, or I could like try and cheat and get in some like just squeaking under the deadline theories while watching the final episode of Dark.
Tabulate how many you need,
Yeah, exactly. No, I have no idea what the score is looking like at the moment, but I know I got a lot wrong in this one, so we shall see how it pans out in the Theory Matrix episode in a few weeks' time.
We will. Okay, guys, can you please subscribe on audio apps? Subscribe on YouTube, The Culture Cave. Can you please also send us an email if you want to get in touch? You could either just get in touch in general. You can tell us how great we're doing. You can tell us how bad we're doing. You can give us a question. adpodmail@gmail.com. You can also leave a comment on this video for any questions you want to ask Konrad about the finale. In terms of, maybe we'll try and keep those questions for the finale centered around sort of the thematic analysis of the finale. And I want the unanswered questions. We're going to do a Dark Discussions episode on that. On the Tuesday after we put up that final episode, okay? So in sort of 7 days after you're seeing this, 8 days after you're seeing this this podcast. So keep those about that. The unanswered questions will come there. If you want to put some unanswered questions there, that's fine, but I won't ask them to him there. Okay, guys, that's us. Thanks very much. Like the video, of course. That always helps. If you're listening on podcasting apps, leave us a review. Honest reviews only. Konrad likes 5-star ones, but I'll say honest reviews. Apart from that, I'm pretty sure I can just say goodbye.
Goodbye.
Thank you for listening to the After Dark podcast. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss an episode.